load bal. Okay, one second. Let me click on this. Yeah. So today we are going to have the demo for load balancer and for LTM module. So in case you are already aware, like within load balancer, we have multiple modules, and today we are going to have the demo for the LTM. So uh, I'm the admin of this particular group, which we started off long time back. I would say it's a long journey from where we started. We started off in 2014, and today we have pretty decent amount of group members who are quite supportive and helping each other. So I used to get the different feedback from the team members or the group members that which course they are particularly looking for. So as you all know, load balancer and the Palo Alto, they both are the pioneers in their particular domains. So if you talk about the load balancer, there is only one name in the mind. I would say there is only one name in the market, which is F5, which everybody knows. And in fact, F5 is the synonymous of the load balancer. And if you talk about the security, again, a Palo Alto is the key technology which is in the demand these days. So every time I used to get the feedback that, okay, if we can get the combination of our combo of the load balancer and the Palo Alto, this is going to boost your resume like anything. So then I discussed with our academy that, okay, if we can combine both the courses, that will be a very good idea. So today we are going to have the demo for F5, and by the end of this month, we are going to launch the course, which is the combo of the load balancer and the Palo Alto. So this was the most demanding. This we were waiting from last few months if we can start off, and finally the time has come. Then I thought, okay, let's have the demo first. Let's be interactive. Let's talk to everybody, and then we can start our batch by the end of this particular month. And few more things come to our mind, like what are the prerequisites? Do I need to be expert in any particular domain or technology to join this course or to make this more fruitful? Uh, Good thing is you don't need to be an expert in particular domain or technology. You just need to have the basic understanding of the network, like how network works. Not specific to any technology, not specific to any environment, but the basic understanding, the network flow, how it works. So when we talk about the network flow, like from any source to destination, again, multiple things will come in between when the traffic starts from source, goes to the destination. And out of these multiple technologies, we are going to focus on the load balancer, which is the key player when we talk about the data center, which is the key player when we talk about the enterprise network. And similarly for security, we are going to talk about the Palo Alto. So I would say make it interactive, make it count. I mean, understand every aspect what we are going to cover. Good to have lot of questions in your mind. We will be happy to cover. And similarly, once we complete this particular session, you can ask questions in the group also. I mean, we all will be there. We will be there to answer those queries. We want all queries which are in your mind or which are going to be generated when we are going to cover this session, all to be answered. If the time allows in this particular session, we are going to answer within this session. Otherwise, feel free to post your queries in the group. We'll be happy to answer. And already we are getting a lot of inputs in the group also. And I mean, this includes everything, like lot of theoretical questions comes in, lot of question comes in related to the career guidance also. What should be our plan to boost our resume apart from the routing switching? Because everybody starts with the routing switching, which is again the basic, but then a lot of courses comes into our mind. So I would say go for the load balancer, again, which is F5 only in the market, and then go for the security. Security, you should start with the Palo Alto. If you refer different job portals also, you will find that, okay, you will be finding maximum jobs related to Palo Alto. And then the second option, if you want to learn, then it can be Checkpoint also. But I would say start off with the Palo Alto. All right, and I would like to talk about our trainers also, which is the most important in any of the course if you are planning to join. So if I talk about our trainers for both F5 Ltm and Palo Alto have decent amount of experience working in real-time environment. And this course is going to cover major aspects like your theoretical section, labs, real-time scenarios, and again, real-time scenarios can be taught by somebody who has worked in the real-time environment. If anybody has a theoretical knowledge and don't have any experience in the real-time environment, they can cover the theoretical part, and another thing, they can cover the labs also. But I would say real-time examples are very, very important. So our trainers for both the courses have good amount of experience. They are working in different MNCs. So you can expect to come up with like very good real-time examples, which you can utilize once you start working somewhere, once you land in a very good job. And the most important thing, when you complete the course, interview guidance. That is very, very important. Because until and unless you crack some interviews based on the knowledge what you acquired in this course, I would say it is of no use, right? If you go for any of the course and if you are not well prepared for the interview, then how you are going to utilize that knowledge? Everything should be output based. So we understand this aspect very clearly, very well. So we cover the interview guidance also. So that whatever you have learned, you should be able to utilize that particular knowledge in an interview, crack the interview, land in a good job, and then start utilizing that knowledge in your real-time environment. So covering all this is going to make it a complete package to go for. All right, so I think I have taken already 10 minutes. So we have our plan is very clear what we are going to cover today. So I won't take much time. I'll give it back to our academy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Okay, guys, so I'll be sharing my screen and let me start. So guys, as admin already told that we are starting a combo batch for F5 plus Palo Alto. And people were having some confusion like which module it will cover. So we have F5 LTM module, which we'll be covering. And I will be sharing you course content, plus I will be giving you an idea about the certification. And the last, we will cover the interview, guys. So I've added a 20 minutes interview session today so that you can get idea what type of questions can be asked. So right now, whether you are in routing switching background or any other background, guys, so the must first thing comes into mind, like I have 5 years experience in routing and switching, but how I can show the experience in F5? That is the most important question which comes into mind. So I will take care of all these things together. So let me first tell you little bit about the session. So first I will be going through the course content, what exact things I will be covering. Then we will discuss what is F5. There are different load balancers in market, but what is F5 load balancer and what modules it covers? LTM, GTM, ASM, and there are one more other module which is called APM. So we will talk about little bit on other modules. Then we will talk about career part, guys. Even you are in routing switching background, guys, people ask you that you should have knowledge on LTM, GTM. And best thing is, guys, don't trust anyone. Go to naukri.com and you will find the details. And we also, so what are the facilities which we provide in career path is like, we will give you lifetime interview support, guys. First thing is that I know that many things we will be covering, many people will be worried like, sir, how I will clear the interview. So that thing, don't worry. I have been working on F5 from last 10 years. I've been certified in LTM, GTM, ASM, and APM. So I know what are the things which can be asked. Another thing which is important in F5 is, guys, you have a free license. You can do any lab free of cost. You don't need anything. So today I will be discussing about 5 interview questions which are live so that you can get a good idea. So stay with me. I will be discussing that after 45 minutes so that you can get a good idea what are the things covered. And it is the granted interview support which we give. Like we are not saying that like it's a granted interview support for routing, switching or anything, but for F5 and plus Palo Alto, we can make sure you that if you do courses from us, it's not about marketing, it's about the experience which we have. So my another trainer, which is Hemu sir, is already certified and he's working in Palo Alto from last 10 years. So the most important thing is theory is equal, okay? Theory everyone can clear, they can refer the blogspot, but practically knowledge is important. Then we will talk about the TMOS architecture. Like there is an operating system of F5, which is called TMOS architecture. Another thing which we cover, guys, is doubt session. People have concerns like if we take pre-recorded videos, if we don't join any session, if I miss it, will I get recorded session? Right? You will get lifetime video access. And I will be sharing you the portal where we upload this. You can take it pre-recorded video. Some people say that I don't get time. So how I can take it? So we have a portal already ready with different courses. So you can visit. I will not talk much on that today. After the training, I will show you. But these are the courses which are available on our application. So you can just go to VNCPH, our then store, or you can download our Skilled Inspirational Academy Google Store application. Or another thing, if you want to check through our Google Chrome or Mozilla, you can enter vncph.courses.store so that you can get good idea what are the courses which we have. So everything you can just click on, like we have Palo Alto Advanced Tech or any other course. You can check what are the course content and what is covered. Anyways, we will talk and later on after this, I will guide you how you can enroll it. The thing which I was talking about, guys, is doubt session. Let's say you have enrolled us, you will be added in our WhatsApp group, which is lifetime, guys. Until you get a good job, we will support you. After that, also, if you have any issues, you will get a good idea. Second thing is, guys, you can call us Monday to Friday for any doubt. Let's say you have any doubt. You can call us maybe 7 to 8 p.m. for F5. For Palo Alto, you can call us 5 to 6 p.m. for any doubt guides. Let's say you have any issues or you want any interview support. So let's jump directly into the main agenda now. So guys, F5 is a company and F5, if you heard, F5 is also called big IP. Many people will heard about big IP. So what is the difference between F5 and big IP? So F5 is a company, guys, and big IP is a product. So like Cisco has different product in market. Cisco has its own router switches. F5 has also its product, which is called big IP. Big IP is a product which is a load balancer. You will get an idea like in market, there are other load balancers, Citrix, Redware. So it is the same thing with F5. So F5 has introduced in market in 1997. And now he has launched all the products. Whatever you think, it has its own load balancer, which is called LTM. It has own intelligent DNS, which is called GTM. It has own web product, which is called web application firewall. In F5, it is called ASM. So see, load balancer, everyone is say F5 is a load balancer. No, F5 is a load balancer, which is one product, which is called LTM, local traffic manager. But in market, you will also see other products. Like maybe some customer will say, I need to install GTM as a product. Then there is one WAF. He has its own firewall, which is called Web Application Firewall. Then we have APM, which is called Single Sign-On Solution, or you can say SSL VPN. So let's say, guys, if someone wants to don't implement any firewalls or anything, they want to intelligent WAF, so you can also just buy a license. So you can upgrade or downgrade, depends on the features which you have. So if someone asks you, F5 is a company, guys, F5 Networks, you can apply for the job. It's an American US based company which has its own product called Big IP. And Big IP has different modules. LTM is one module, GTM is one module, ASM is one module, and APM is one module. So that's why it's in huge market, guys. Even you are from fresher, even you are experienced, people will ask you knowledge about load balancer. Even, guys, people will say that try to understand, they have gone into cloud, will load balancer still comes in picture? GCP, Azure, right, guys? I have seen many companies are going to cloud, but they are using F5 load balancer even in cloud due to its durability, due to its support. Even, guys, you can practice all features on the lab before implementing it, because they provide you 30 days free license. You can just spin up your VMware and try every feature. 30 days license free of cost will be given to you. So this was all about F5. And, guys, sometimes this product is also called application delivery controller. So don't get confused. So every term in F5 has some meaning. What is application delivery controller, guys? Let's say, guys, I have Sianets.com, one application which I want to host on F5 load balancer. And I want to make it sure that it should be 24/7 accessible. So my agenda is, customer will come to me, hey, Sianets.com, Skill Inspirational Academy. I have two applications which I want to deploy under load balancer. So all things will be covered from scratch. So that's why it's called application delivery controller. So what does it means is, my main agenda is I want to deliver my application to my customer 24/7. So what are the things which depends, right? Right now, my software team told me that I have published one cnnets.com, one website. So what I want 24/7 availability. Customer will say, hey, Skilled Inspirational Academy, okay, what are the features you will provide us? So I will say I will provide 24/7 application access. You will not face any outage. Another thing which I will provide is security. Security is another feature which I will provide. And the third thing is performance. Performance is also one of the features which matters. And the another thing which people ask is scalability or durability. That is another important thing which F5 provides. So F5 is a product which a mixture, right? Right now, intelligent DNS, GTM is one product. Why GTM is required once we have DNS? So that is also important. So normal DNS does not have a feature. Like if someone is sitting, let's say I have two data center, one at US and one at UK, and I have one F5 load balancer. Now, my website is hosted on US data center also. My website is also hosted at UK data center also. So I want, if someone is coming from US data center or US location, it should go to US website. If someone is coming from UK location, it should go to UK data center. That is how GTM works. It is intelligent. You can implement based on topology, so that makes it intelligent. Even it's giving you DC-DR infrastructure, guys. You can implement DC-DR infrastructure with help of GTM. Right now, guys, DNS GTM is in huge demand of F5. Every company Even you see HCL, Wipro, every company is using GTM. So whenever they ask for any interview go, they will ask you, are you working on LTM plus GTM? What is the main difference between LTM versus GTM? So guys, LTM is a local traffic manager. Try to understand the term logic. GTM is a global traffic manager. So you should understand the difference between them. What is the exact difference? So LTM guys, let's say I have one application google.com or Sianets.com. I have one data center and I have 3 servers. Let's say server 1, server 2, and server 3. And I have client which is hosted on internet. Now I want to host my application locally. Users will be coming from internet, then maybe I will have one firewall where I will have the rule. Now they will come access google.com or any website. So google.com is just a virtual server guys. It's logical, but it is hosted on server 1 also, server 2 also, and server 3 also. If server 1 goes down, your traffic should not get impacted. So that is called local traffic manager, which makes sure that if someone wants to access the application locally within the data center, then I will use LTM, which is called local traffic manager, where I will just implement one website, which I will create a virtual server, and I will have multiple servers behind that. Your application will be hosted here, here, and here. Even this server goes down, F5 can load balance some request here and here. So that is the main role of local traffic manager. Now, what is the difference? GTM. So GTM is termed as a global traffic manager. Very, very important, guys. Most of the companies are implementing GTM in their organization. So what happens here is I have 2 data center, DC1, DC2, and I have a client coming from internet. Then I have 3 servers here, server 2, server 3. Then I have 3 servers here, server 1, server 2, and server 3. So GTM makes sure that your application is accessible within multiple data center. Maybe this is hosted in US, this is hosted in UK. So you can host same application, let's say cnets.com here also, and in UK also. If someone is coming to UK location, he can go to UK servers. If someone is coming into US data center, he can access the same application. So global means I can implement, let's say one application I have cnets.com. I can implement on multiple data centers. That is the main role of GTM, global. That's why it is termed as a global traffic manager. Very important, guys. I want to make sure that my application are secure and available 24 into 7. So that's why GTM is generally deployed in active scenario. Sometimes some people will say active passive, but most of the cases you will see GTM is deployed as a active scenario. So your application, same application is hosted on one data center and another data center. So that is the difference between LTM and GTM. Now let's come further. This question will be asked everywhere, guys. So that's where that is the biggest. And what does GTM do, guys? GTM will not load balance, guys. GTM main role is very important. Another term is GTM is still a DNS. So it will give you name resolution. It will just convert name into IP address. That's what it does. So traffic will not flow. Traffic will still go through LTM. So that is how the traffic flow is. Let's talk about GTM LTM traffic flow for 2 minutes. You have one client which is hosted on internet. Then you will have firewall, then you will have one GTM, let's say. Then guys, you will have LTM here and LTM here. I'm talking about just one GTM right now. Just think about two GTM at the moment. So guys, how traffic flow will be? There is a concept in GTM which is called wide IP. Wide IP is nothing but the URL domain. Let's say sianets.com is one wide IP. People come from different location. They want an IP address resolution that will be done from GTM. In GTM, you will create multiple records and name resolution will happen. First, guys, in this flow, what will happen? Client will access sianets.com, then it will say whether sianets.com is configured on GTM, it will say yes. Then he needs to give an IP address. So IP address will be given, let's say IP address is given 10.2.2.30. Okay, this is the IP which he gets. Now the same IP virtual server will be configured on LTM. Let's say 10.2.2.30 here, 10.2.2.31 here. So the actual load balancer will happen at this part. GTM will just do name resolution. Then there will be traffic flow, IP address, he got it, then it will go to GTM, then further load balancing will happen. So that is the key difference. Traffic doesn't actually flow through GTM. GTM is just an intelligent name resolver. It is not difficult, guys. It's very easy. You need to understand the logic. So GTM will provide you the DNS and LTM will perform load balancer. So you need to integrate GTM with LTM. So there is a protocol. Sometimes the interview will ask you how to integrate GTM with LTM, which port it uses. So there is a concept which is called iQuery. Your answer should be iQuery. So that is how GTM and LTM together is very powerful. Very important, guys. Trust me, go to naukri.com today and check it. How powerful GTM and LTM is in today's world. Even in AWS, guys, you will heard about term Route 53. That is also do the same feature. So that's why if you have one knowledge, even you have GTM knowledge, or you have heard about info blocks, that is also very important. All the same concept works with DNS. If you have good knowledge basics of DNS, then GTM is not difficult. Now let's go further. Guys, people will have the question here. People will ask you, they will test your knowledge. Some people will say that, hey, I don't have experience, how I can show to my interviewer. So F5 comes, what is the question which interviewer will ask you? Are you working on F5? First question. Hey, Vineet, how are you? Are you working on F5? Can you tell me which modules you have worked? If you're working on F5, you should know which module you are working. You should know, understand the architecture level so that even if you're not working, guys, you can answer it. Trust me, you need to modify your thinking. You need to show them you are working, right? I have seen people who don't have experience, they will still show that I am working in F5 from last 10 years. How they will show? They will work hard, they will do the labs, they will understand the architecture. So guys, F5 can be deployed in three ways. First, you can deploy it as a virtual edition. So virtual edition depends on the throughput, 25 MB, 200 Mbps, 1 gigabit. So you need to understand that way. And the second thing, which is important, is hardware level. First one, we have talked about LTM. Then second one, hardware. So initial module is 2000 series, 4000, 5000, 7000. So these are the high series boxes. Right now we have I series box also, which is used for higher end boxes, 5800, 5600. So that are the high-end boxes which are being deployed, which makes more flexible environment. So F5 can be deployed in virtual environment, physical environment. Also, you can deploy it physical plus virtual. So that is very important. You need to understand how it is. So that is very, very important, guys. Now, guys, what is next step? You have understood the architecture. What are the devices? You can deploy it in hardware, virtual, physical, and hybrid. Now let's talk about load balancer in detail. What exactly it does. So we are here to understand local traffic manager. So guys, there are two picture one and picture two. So what is the difference you have? In one environment, we don't have F5. In second environment, we have one product which is called local traffic manager. Let's say I have one application which is hosted sianets.com. Sianets.com is hosted here also. Sianets.com is hosted in multiple server environment also. Here I have deployed Sianets. Same I have here and here. So what is the difference between picture one and picture two? In my theory, guys, I generally follow pictorial representation. I don't follow much theory. I explain by the diagrams. So in first picture, guys, your traffic coming from internet, then you have a firewall, then directly application server. So your all request is going via one server. In this case, guys, let's say this server goes down. What will happen? Your website will be outage. Your customer will shout, hey, my website is inaccessible. You will get an error. You will get a request timeout. So how to resolve it? So that's where load balancer comes into picture, where it will understand. Let's say this is our client, then firewall, then load balancer. Can you see? Some traffic will go here, some traffic is going here, some traffic is going here. So that is the main purpose of load balancer, guys. It makes sure that your application is 24/7 accessible. And it also makes sure that if one server, let's say this server has 70% utilized, this server is 20% utilized, this server is 10% utilized. In picture one, there was one disadvantage. First disadvantage is if this server goes down, then your application is inaccessible. Second disadvantage is your all client request is going via one server. So your server will get overloaded. But in this case, guys, what are the advantage when we introduce local traffic manager? First thing is you have multiple servers where your application is hosted. You have 24/7 application accessible. Second advantage is, guys, even one server goes down, this server will still able to handle the request. And it will make sure that if this server is 70% utilized, this server is 30% utilized, and this server is 20% utilized, then the next request of the client F5 will say, oh, it is already utilized. So I will make sure that my request will go to either server 3 or server 4. So that depends on your load balancing algo. That is the main term, guys. Even you go to any interview or in any production environment, load balance and algo will come into picture. How F5 will utilize the load. And the third important thing which comes into picture is health monitor. Here, guys, if this server goes down, there is no way client will come to know whether this server is down. Please try to understand, this is very important, guys. Very, very important term, health monitor. How, if this server goes down, how F5 will come to know that my request should not go to this server? So that makes sure by health monitor feature. It makes sure that if server goes down, your request should not go to this server. It should go by this server or this server. So there are two things. Let's say in this environment, I have F5, which is deployed, but I have no health monitor. So in this case, your website is hosted here, server 1, server 2, server 3. Your website is hosted here also. Now, if there is no health monitor, if this server goes down, guys, still you will face some outage. Here it will be not total outage, but it will be intermittent. Why intermittent? Because there is no way that this server is down. F5 has no health monitor. Sometimes this request, whenever this request go to this server, then you will face intermittent outage. Then sometimes it will go here, then it will work. But here it will be total outage. But guys, whenever we deploy F5, we always deploy with health monitor. So that if server goes down, your request will only go to up servers. Your client request will not go to down server. That is very important term. So that is all about difference between a normal traffic flow versus local traffic manager. Now the another term which comes into picture is, which many people have heard about, full proxy architecture. What does full proxy architecture? We have heard about half proxy. Many people have heard about term reverse proxy. Many people have heard about term forward proxy. But what does full proxy do? Whenever we deploy F5, guys, F5 will always term its load balancer as full proxy. Either you deployed ASM, GTM, or LTM. Whenever you deploy, there will be two connections. So traffic flow will be, you will have client, then you have F5, then you have server 1, server 2, server 3, let's say. So in F5, that term is called as, this is client. Here you will have one virtual server. Virtual server is nothing, but it is a website URL. So another important term which comes into picture is, people will ask you, what is the difference between a virtual server versus pool member versus node? Everyone will ask this question. What is the difference between virtual server, pool member, and node? So virtual server is nothing. If you want to publish any application, that is called virtual server. Virtual server is a combination of IP address plus port number. Generally, your website are hosted on 443. That is called HTTPS. Full proxy means, guys, F5 has a visibility. Until this connection three-way handshake is completed, F5 will not forward the traffic to server. That is the main purpose of full proxy. Full proxy means three-way handshake will be built between client to F5, then three-way handshake will be built between F5 to the server. Another advantage is, guys, I want this traffic to be SSL and this traffic to be unencrypted. That also you can do. I want client to F5 traffic to be on 443 port, but F5 to the server traffic should be unencrypted. That you can do. So this connection is a separate connection and this separate connection is there. So that's why it is termed as separate client and server connection. Sometimes, guys, your server does not have a capability to handle huge data. Let's say client is sending 10 gigabit of traffic, which server cannot handle, right? So server, what server wants? Server want traffic should first get compressed, then only I should get it. My server team says that my traffic should come on a compressed way. I cannot handle huge data. So that's why you can apply, let's say this traffic is 10 gigabits. So F5 will first compress it and send to the server so that server can able to access it. So that's why it is called full proxy. There will be separate client and server connection. Another important thing is, guys, let's say I have an LTM box and I have a WAF, which is called Application Security Manager. So you will implement a policy, security policy. So client will never come to know which server I want my traffic is going. Client only knows that this is my IP address, this is my website. I will access it. I don't know what are the servers behind my load balancer. So it will protect your direct server. That is also main role of full proxy. Another advantage of WAF is full proxies, guys. First, it will check whether it's a bad traffic or it's a good traffic. So F5 will check it basically on OWASP top 10. So that is the main purpose of a full proxy architecture. It has a visibility, what is going in and what is coming out. So it has a full visibility, what is client is sending and what server is sending in response. So generally F5 is deployed as a HTTP based application. So that's why it works on HTTP request and response traffic. So it has a visibility of all traffic which is coming into picture. Another important point, guys, very, very important interview question, which is generally based asked. What are the different ports which are available on F5? If you answer this question, guys, people will understand that you are working on F5, even you're not working. So we have a dedicated management port. So whenever you deploy F5, guys, F5 will have a dedicated management port and F5 has a dedicated data port. So your management traffic, even if your data port is impacted, your management traffic is still accessible. Even your data is impacted or your data ports are down, maybe switch is down or a firewall is down, still you will able to access your F5 GUI. So F5 has a dedicated port for management accessible and for data traffic. So we have a dedicated port for management. So let's say if you want to configure Scratch, you will plug your laptop on a console and you can configure your F5. So that is where console port is. Then you have copper port, that is called a data port, guys. Then you can say one is failover cable. What does this failover cable mean, guys? Let's say I want F5 to be deployed in a HA environment, which means active and passive. I have one F5 one here, I have one F5 2 here. One is active and one is passive. I have a client, then I have servers. So I want to make sure that when this F5 is up, all my traffic should go to this way. If this is down, then it should go via this way and this should become active. So that is where HA failover cable come into picture, where you want to build an HA, which is called high availability. Even one box goes down, second box can handle the traffic. That is where failover cable comes into picture. Now another term which comes into picture is fiber port. So that is where your trunk port comes into picture. Maybe you have uplink or downlink. So that is where your switch is connecting to your F5 in your environment and you will configure VLANs and everything. So that is where your F5 comes into picture with data port. Now another scenario which comes into picture is, guys, TMOS architecture, guys. We have talked about total. Now we need to understand what is the operating system running on F5. We have heard about F5 as a company. We have heard about different modules of big IP, LTM, GTM, ASM, and APM. But what is the operating system running behind it? So for every machine, right, we have an operating system which has a special purpose. So in this case, that operating system is TMOS. So there is a term TMOS. What does it mean? That is called Traffic Management Operating System. So we have Juniper. Let's say we have a Juniper box. In Juniper, we have Junus. In Cisco, we have iOS. The same we have in F5 that is called Traffic Management Operating System. So that architecture is divided into different terms. If I talk about Traffic Management Operating System, I'm just drawing a quick picture. We have a TMOS that is hosted in front end. We have one management port that is for management. So I will mark it as admin. So GUI, CLI, all TMSH shell that will be done by management port. And here we have different modules, LTM, GTM, ASM, APM. Then we have one more architecture which is called iRule, guys. iRule is a dedicated feature which we will discuss later on in the class, which can modify your traffic and send to the server. So whatever feature is not performed by F5, that can be done by iRule. And iRule is getting replaced by local traffic policy, guys. So people were worried whether iRule is difficult or easy. Now F5 has introduced local traffic policy, which is more GUI friendly. Then we have an special hardware performance engine that is called SSL and compression. So I talked about, right, there are two connections. One is a client side and one is a server side. I want my client to F5 traffic should be encrypted, but I want F5 to the server should be unencrypted. So that is called TMOS architecture. So user traffic will go, it will check everything, security, optimization, load balancing, DNS. So can you see in the picture, everything is there. You have a security engine, you have a load balancing engine, you have a DNS service engine. So there are dedicated engine everywhere. So very important term which comes into picture. So how to access management interface? So guys, by default, what is the IP? So this is the interview question which is asked, what is the default IP when I have not given any IP? So default IP for F5 is 192.168.1.245. That is for hardware box. And sometimes you have a Viprion box also, guys. Viprion is another hardware which works on guest and host basis. So for that, IP address is 192.168.1.246. So you can access F5 via SSH and you can access F5 via CLI also. And for GUI, you can access HTTPS. So what is the default username and password? Let's say I want to access GUI through HTTPS. So what is my username and password? My username is admin and my password is admin, default password. And let's say I want to access F5 through CLI. Username is root and password is default. So how it looks like? So it is looking like, let me show you quickly. So that is how it looks like. So I will log in through admin. So this is how your F5 looks. So you have a system. Here, if you want to see the IP address, then you need to go to platform and you will see the IP address. So this is the tab where you have configured. So in the normal architecture, when I draw a topology, let me quickly draw it. So you have an F5. Let's talk about architecture and lab setup for 2 minutes. In normal environment, we have two modes. One is one arm and one is two arm. Very important term, guys, which will be asked. What is the difference between a one arm mode and a two arm mode? So before that, you should understand what is VLAN, what is self IP, and what is interface. So in the common term, you should understand the network architecture of F5, how the traffic flows. So in a lab environment, I will deploy F5 in my virtual edition. I have one server where I will deploy 3 servers, which will be termed as red, green, blue server. That will be called server VLAN. Then I will have one management VLAN. Management network will be a separate network and a separate interface. Then I will have one external interface. That is where my client will be coming from internet. And one interface will be HA. So this is how by default F5 is deployed. F5 by default has 4 interfaces. One is for management network, one is for internal network, and one is for external, where your client will come and access your website. So your URL and all will be from this website. Your virtual server basically is from external network, and you have one HA network. Whenever you deploy HA, you will have a dedicated interface. So guys, my role will be, I'll be configuring the 4 interfaces. I will configure 4 VLANs and I will configure 4 self IP. Self IP will be 3. For management, it is a dedicated interface. So self IP will be for HA network, external network, and internal network. Guys, this will be an interview question which will be asked. What is the difference between a self IP and a floating IP? So we will discuss. So floating comes only in picture when HA is deployed. And what is self IP? So self IP, I will tell you now. Before that, I will go to F5. I will show you how the network architecture is. I will go to network interfaces. Can you see, guys? Right now, you can see 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. So I'm again drawing a picture. Let's say 1.2 is my internal network. 1.1 is my external network. With 1.1 VLAN, it will be tagged to one VLAN. This will be tagged to internal VLAN. And one we have HA. But I cannot see management, guys. Here I cannot see management. But by default, F5 has 4 interfaces. So management interface will be looked by putty. So it cannot be seen by GUI. So you log in into CLI 192.168.137.231. So I will log in root. So I will type this command, guys. I will go to shell TMSH. I will list network interface. So this is the command to check the interface of F5. List network interface. Guys, CLI is very important if you're working on F5 or an automation. So you should know CLI, and that CLI I will be covered in 30 minutes. That I can make sure. F5 CLI I can explain you in 30 minutes. You can check my video on YouTube, Skilled Inspirational Academy, you will come to know. So I will be teaching every topic where it is necessary. I will be teaching to GUI and CLI both. So that you, for troubleshooting, CLI is very important, guys. Let's say if you want to take any Wireshark captures or anything, CLI comes into picture. So I will run this command. Can you see this? Management interface. So here you will see 4 interface: 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and management interface. Now, guys, another term comes into picture in every mind. What is self IP? In every term, every scenario, whenever you are deploying F5, you will always heard this term, what is self IP. So guys, I will make it easy. What is the use of self IP? So sometimes people will ask you, what is self IP? Someone will ask you, what is the use case of self IP? Guys, when we have deployed this interface, okay, let's say I have F5 internal, F5 external, and F5 HA. This must be dedicated to some VLAN, right? Your interface must be tagged or untagged. So you will go to VLAN. So can you see this? You have 3 VLANs configured: HA, external, internal, and where it is tagged. Internal is tagged to 1.2, 1.1, and 1.3. So guys, this VLAN should have one IP address, right? You have one F5, I have 1.2 here, I have 1.1 here, and I have 1.3 here. 1.3 is HA network, 1.2 is internal, and you have 3 servers, server 2, server 3. So this network is, let's say, 10.2.2.0/24. This network is 10.1.1.0/24. And this network is 192.168.1.0/24. So you will configure one IP address, right? So that IP address is nothing that is called self IP. That is the layer 3 IP address. So that is where self IP comes into picture. So in this case, what will happen is you will have one IP configure across every VLAN. So in this case, your external IP will be one network, internal IP will be one network, and HA will be one network. So that is where self IP comes into picture. That is the layer 3 IP address. So for every VLAN, you need to create a separate layer 3 IP, or that is called SVI, switch virtual interface in Cisco. When server needs to point to default gateway, what will be the default gateway? Default gateway will be the self IP of internal network. Let's say this VLAN IP will be 10.2.2.50. So for every VLAN, you need to create a self IP. So self IP is nothing, but it is the IP address that is HSRP or VRRP. So when you go to IP address, this is where, can you see? I have floating IP, self IP, and internal IP. So it is the layer 3 IP address. Self IP is nothing. If someone asks you, it is the layer 3 IP address of a particular VLAN. So that is where self IP comes into picture. So self IP, what are the 3 use cases of self IP? That will come in 5 minutes, guys. In interview discussion, I will ask this question. So this was all about the lab setup. So in lab setup, guys, I will be performing lab setup in your laptop. Generally, you will have 8 GB RAM. You can configure your F5. If you have a good laptop, even in 4 GB also, you can configure your lab. I always recommended to perform your lab on your laptop instead of taking a rental lab, guys, where you need to pay something. It's better to take it before rental. Just take a laptop, a good laptop of 8 GB RAM, just deploy a license. I will tell you how to purchase a license. It's free of cost. You can do anything. And we will be deploy everything on virtual edition. You can also do on EVNG, but most of the things I will be covering virtual edition. It's your choice. You can deploy on virtual edition or an EVNG. Now I will go back. I will share my screen once in 1 minute. So where it we were, now let's talk about network flow. Let's say guys, you have a client who wants to access www.f5.com or sianets.com. First, that there will be some DNS server that is not F5 guys. Maybe that is external DNS who will be doing your name to IP resolution. So generally in DNS, you need to tell, hey, I have configured sianets.com with this IP. So if some request come into this sianets.com, you should create one A record on your DNS so that my traffic flows here. So traffic will first go to DNS, there will be a name resolution, then it will come to F5. So client request will then go to F5. So this is where your virtual server comes into picture. Then there will be load balancing happen, guys. So load balancing will happen. Your traffic will go first to this server, this server, this server, this server, depends on algo. So it can be round robin or any other type of algo. So there will be two traffic flow. One, packet one. In packet one, what would be the source IP? Source IP would be your client IP. What would be the server IP? Server IP will be your virtual server IP. Now traffic comes here. So I talked about full proxy model, right? You have client to F5 and one traffic flow is F5 to the server. So here your source is not changing. Source will be your client IP address, but your destination is getting converted into pool member IP address. Please see the difference. This is same. Your client IP is same in both the packet, but your destination IP in first packet is your virtual server IP, and here it is your pool member IP address. So LTM by default will translate your destination IP to your pool member or the node. So what is the difference between a node and a pool member? There is only one difference. Node is only an IP address. If someone asks you what is the difference between node versus pool member, node is just an IP address of your server. Backend server. Someone will say backend server, someone will say application server, someone will say web server. All are same term. And pool member is an IP plus port. Generally, when you deploy any application, guys, they will listen on some port, right? Here, can you see? You have one port 80, one port 8080, one port is 4002. So that is what is the difference between a node and a pool member. Don't worry, guys. We will discuss everything in detail. Now this was the request traffic. Let's come across return traffic. So we have discussed in picture one, client wants to send traffic to F5. Traffic will go this way and this way. Now let's talk about response. When server will send a response. So when server will send a response, what will be the source IP? Source IP will be my pool member IP address. And destination will be my client IP. And here source IP, can you see? Now source IP is getting converted to your virtual server IP and destination is same. Previously source was same, in return packet, destination is same. So that is how traffic flows, guys. Now, final step, which I want to show is the course content quickly. Most of the people will ask you what is the course content you are covering. So this is what we will cover. So we will cover first all the things related to your introduction, hardware, licensing part, and everything. Then we will talk about standard network architecture, then lab setup. All the things will be done theory plus practical. So that is our main agenda. And every video I will tell you what are the very, very important topic, what can be the interview question from that topic. So we will cover module 1, lab setup theory, lab setup, licensing part, deployment on VMware, network part, and NTP and DNS. So this all will be covered in detail. Now the next topic which we will cover in detail is F5 terminology. What is virtual server? What is pool? What is pool member and what is node? So whenever traffic flows, we will have F5, we have a client. So generally we will follow this architecture. We have multiple servers, server 1, server 2, server 3. So what is virtual server? What is pool member? What is node? And packet flow, which I've already discussed, we will show you through Wireshark. So every topic, we will show you the Wireshark capture also. What is the client IP? What is the destination IP? So we will talk end-to-end traffic flow. Then the most important topic which comes into picture is health monitor. There are multiple types of health monitor, ICMP, TCP, HTTP based health monitor, FTP based health monitor. So what is the difference? Then guys, you can deploy F5 in multiple mode. You can deploy F5 as layer 3. You can deploy F5 as layer 4. You can deploy F5 as layer 7. So everything will be covered in detail. Different types of virtual server. Now the next topic, which is the base of F5, is load balancing algo. When traffic comes from client, goes to F5, after that, how F5 decide whether request should go to server 1, server 2, or server 3? How F5 will decide whether I should send traffic to this server, this server, this server? That all things depends on your load balancing algo. Then guys, we will talk about profiles. What is the difference between a TCP profile, HTTP profile? How F5 understand that my traffic is TCP, FTP, HTTP? How traffic F5 will understand? F5 is not intelligent, guys. You need to make it intelligent. And that profile helps you. Profile will help you. We will talk about different profile, SSL profile, encryption, offloading, TCP profile with packet flow. Then another profile which comes into picture is persistence. What is the difference between a cookie persistence? What is the difference between a source address based persistence? How it comes into picture? Everything will be done. Now, another module which is comes into picture in every interview, guys, you will ask, what is snat in F5? Can someone tell me the 4 use cases of snat? That we will discuss in next 10 minutes in our interview round, guys. Please stay with me. I will discuss multiple interview questions which will help you in cracking interview. So that we will discuss. We will talk about NAT. What is the difference between NAT versus NAT? People don't know what is NAT versus NAT. So don't get confused. We will discuss everything in detail. Then we will discuss difference between 1-arm mode and 2-arm mode. So architecture wise. Then there is, guys, a simple topic on IAP. It's in 15 minutes topic, which we will discuss how to deploy IAP. Basically, let's say I want to deploy Exchange application in my environment. I want to deploy Google application, how I can deploy quickly. So that helps on IAP. Then another topic which is very important is troubleshooting, where there is one tool which is called iHealth or QK view. We will discuss that in detail. When you face some hardware issue or a software issue, what will happen? What is the case? So that we will discuss in detail. How to upgrade F5 when you have any vulnerability, how to upgrade F5 from scratch. When you have F5 in HA environment, how to deploy or how to upgrade. We will talk about upgrade using GUI and CLI. Around 5 questions will be asked in interview using upgrade. Then another term which comes into picture is a backup. So in this topic, we will cover migration, how we can migrate one F5 to another migrate. RMA, let's say one box is down, I need to replace it. In that there is a most important feature which comes into picture is backup. That is called UCS. Or let's say I'm into one module, I need to migrate into another module. That is where also we will check. So this is where I will discuss about backup and upgrade. So very, very important. Now, the next topic which comes into picture is how to upgrade HA. Before upgrading HA, you need to understand high availability. So in high availability, there are 3 terms which comes into picture. One is device group, one is traffic group, and one is device trust. So you need to understand these 3 terms in detail. Now, after this, we will talk about syslog, log filters and all. And we have a special 4 hours dedicated videos which are already prepared for troubleshooting, guys. We will give you that video and we will discuss some scenarios also. Let's say if someone is saying that I'm not able to access any website, how you will troubleshoot that. Then we will talk about CLI. So here we will talk about CLI. There will be a 1 hour special session for CLI also. Every topic will be covered with Wireshark. Next term which comes into picture is, anyways, this one we will already discuss, I rule. So with I rule, there is another term which is coming into picture is local traffic policy. I will make sure that whoever thinks that I rule is difficult, I will make it easy. We will cover 5 to 6 scenarios. So guys, for any programming, whether Python or anything, your base should be strong. If you know the syntax, if you know the logic, then you can configure any I rule or local traffic policies in detail. That we will cover. And one more topic which is left is route domain and partition. Very important topic. So we will cover that also in detail. So guys, thanks for joining. Now I will stop